when Noah spoke his first words, and they were not in English nor in any language Emily had ever heard, but sound strange and resonant, as if echoing from a world long dead centuries ago. Whitmore, a small, peaceful town in the English countryside, had never been a place for strange happenings. Everything here moved slowly, like a still rippleless lake. But then, a child arrived who would shake the very core of the town's beliefs. Emily Grant, 32 years old, a kind-hearted woman living alone, decided to adopt an orphaned boy she named Noah. The boy was just 2 years old then, pale-skinned, with eyes deep enough to hold the entire night sky. From the very first days, Emily noticed there was something different about Noah. He rarely cried. Instead, Noah silently observed everything, the flowers swaying in the breeze, the clouds drifting across the sky, with the gaze of someone who had lived 1,000 lifetimes. It was not until close to his 3rd birthday that Noah began to speak, and that was when everything changed forever. Emily was sitting by the window, reading a book, when she heard Noah babbling outside in the garden. At first, she thought it was normal toddler gibberish, but gradually, Emily realized every syllable, every rhythm that Noah spoke was not English. In fact, it did not resemble any European language she had ever heard. Was confused. Emily filmed a short clip of Noah talking to himself and posted the video on a linguistics forum, hoping someone might recognize it. She never imagined that the video would attract thousands of views overnight. 48 hours later, Emily's phone rang. An elderly male voice, trembling with excitement, said, "The child is not babbling. He is speaking ancient Hindi, a dialect that was commonly used in northern India over 100 years ago." Emily froze. Noah, a child born and raised in a rural English town, who had never been exposed to Indians, never seen a Bollywood movie, never heard a single word of Hindi, was speaking fluently in a nearly extinct dialect from a century ago. No one could explain it. There was no reasonable answer. Only one truth was becoming clear. Noah was carrying memories that did not belong to this life, and this was only the beginning of a strange journey where the boundaries between present and past would blur, and a terrifying secret about reincarnation would slowly unfold. The news about Noah's strange language ability spread quickly through Whitmore, and soon beyond its quiet borders. Curious neighbors started to drop by Emily's house. They're pretending to bring gifts, but in reality, hoping to catch a glimpse of the boy who spoke the language of another world. Emily tried to shield Noah from the attention, but the questions kept piling up inside her mind. Was Noah merely mimicking sounds he somehow overheard? Was there a logical explanation, some hidden exposure she had missed? She decided she needed help. Emily contacted Dr. Alan Westridge, a respected linguist specializing in dead languages and ancient dialects. Skeptical but intrigued, Dr. Westridge agreed to meet Noah. The meeting took place on a chilly Saturday morning. Noah, dressed warmly, sat quietly at the kitchen table. Swinging his legs back and forth, Dr. Westridge placed a small recorder on the table and spoke gently. "Hello, Noah. Can you talk to me?" Without hesitation, Noah began to speak. Long, flowing sentences poured from his mouth. Structured and deliberate, Dr. Westridge leaned in, his eyes wide behind thick spectacles. After 20 minutes, the professor turned to Emily. Visibly shaken, "This is not random babbling. Your son speaks Vedic Hindi, a classical variant used mainly in religious ceremonies and poetry over 100 years ago. Very few people today could reproduce it so fluently, and certainly no modern child could." Emily felt the room spin slightly. But how she whispered, "How is it possible?" Dr. Westridge shook his head slowly. "Unless you exposed him to hours of ancient religious recitations from India, which I highly doubt. I have no explanation." Emily nodded stiffly. She had no recordings of Indian rituals, no connection to India whatsoever. Desperate for answers, She next brought Noah to a child psychologist, Dr. Rachel Monroe. Dr. Monroe specialized in cases of early childhood memory development and anomalous speech patterns. She observed Noah through 2 sessions, using play-based methods to encourage him to speak. Her report was unsettling. While his cognitive and emotional development matches his age, Noah demonstrates semantic structures and cultural references that do not align with his life experience. He speaks as if he has lived another life. Another life, the phrase haunted Emily. She spent countless nights researching on her laptop. Reincarnation cases, children recalling past lives, strange languages spontaneously spoken, again and again. One name surfaced: Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychologist from the University of Virginia, who had documented thousands of cases of children claiming past life memories, many of which involved unknown languages, verifiable historical facts, and unexplained abilities. Was Noah one of them? And if so, who had he been? One evening, after putting Noah to bed, Emily sat on the porch, wrapping herself in a thick blanket against the cold. The night was silent, save for the whisper of leaves in the wind. She thought about how, from the very first moment she had held Noah in her arms, she had felt something different about him. A gravity, a depth. Now she understood why. Noah was not just her son. He was the keeper of a story buried by time, and it was up to her to help him find it. The first step was clear. She had to ask him directly. The next morning, Emily prepared a quiet space in the living room. She dimmed the lights, lit a single candle, and placed it on the table between her and Noah. Instinctively, she felt that whatever lived inside Noah's mind deserved reverence, not interrogation. Noah sat opposite her, calm, his small hands folded neatly in his lap, his face, bathed in the soft glow of the candle, looked almost ethereal. Emily took a deep breath. "Noah," she said gently, "can you tell me where you learned the words you speak?" Noah blinked slowly, as if peering through layers of mist. Then he spoke, not in English, not in the ancient Hindi he had uttered before, but in broken, halting English, as if stitching together 2 worlds inside his mind. I remember. He said, "Not here. Far across the water. Land of the golden rivers. Hot sun. Big temples. I was someone else." Emily leaned in, heart pounding. "Who were you?" "No, the boy's eyes darkened, and for a moment, Emily saw not her 3-year-old son, but something older, wiser, staring back. "I was called Arjun," he said slowly. "I lived in a city with a great red fort. I wore white cloth. I taught children. I wrote poems. A school teacher, a poet." 100 images flooded Emily's mind, none her own. She whispered. "Was it India? Noah, was it long ago?" The boy nodded solemnly. "Many years, maybe 100, maybe more. I had a wife, her name Asha. She wore bangles that sang when she walked." Noah's voice softened into something fragile, like the memory of a memory. "And I died. The river took me." Emily closed her eyes for a moment, overwhelmed. The river, the ancient symbol of crossing, of death, and rebirth. A chill passed through the room. Though no window was open, the flame of the candle flickered, as if acknowledging an unseen presence. Noah continued, his voice thin as smoke. "I was sleeping under the stars. I heard the water calling me. I followed. I fell, cold dark spinning. Then silence." Emily's throat tightened. Tears welled in her eyes. The boy across from her was no longer just her son. He was a bridge, between lifetimes, between worlds, and somehow, against all odds, his soul had found its way back. So Noah looked up at her, his eyes wide, innocent. "I missed her. he said simply. I tried to find her. But everything was different. Emily could hardly breathe. The depth of sorrow in his tiny voice was unbearable. She reached across the table and took his hand in hers. You are safe now, she whispered. You are home. The candle flickered again, casting long shadows on the walls. Outside, a wind began to rise, swirling fallen leaves into strange, shifting patterns on the ground, somewhere beyond the reach of human sight. Emily felt a soul had been waiting, yearning to be heard. And now, through the fragile voice of a child, it was speaking again. Noah leaned forward, whispering one last thing before sleepiness overtook him. She promised she would find me too. And with that, he curled into Emily's arms, surrendering to dreams. Dreams perhaps older than the very stars shining above them. The decision came not from reason, but from something deeper, a quiet certainty that Emily could not ignore. 2 weeks after Noah's revelation, she booked 2 plane tickets to India. She knew it sounded mad. Friends and neighbors tried to dissuade her. It is just a phase, they said. He is only a child, they insisted. But Emily saw what they could not. She had seen the flicker of ancient sorrow in Noah's eyes. She had felt the chill in the room when he spoke of rivers and lost love. She had heard the silent call in her own heart to follow. Thus, on a misty morning, they left Whitmore behind, carrying little more than a suitcase, a photograph of the Red Fort printed from the internet, and an unspoken hope. The flight was long, and Noah slept most of the way, his small hand never letting go of Emily's. As the plane descended over Delhi, the landscape unfurled below them like a memory reawakening. Vast, dusty plains, winding rivers, ancient structures half buried by time. Noah stirred, blinking against the light, and whispered, half dreaming, I know this place. Emily's heart tightened. They stepped into the heavy, fragrant air of India, a country bursting with colors, sounds, and life everywhere Emily looked. There was movement, rickshaws weaving through traffic, vendors shouting from market stalls, cows ambling lazily down narrow lanes. Yet amid the chaos, Noah was calm. He walked as if he had been here before, his steps confident, his head turning instinctively toward unseen landmarks, following the fragile thread of his memories. Emily hired a local guide named Rajiv, a soft-spoken man with kind eyes who listened without judgment when she explained their strange purpose. Rajiv agreed to take them to the Red Fort first. When they arrived, Noah froze. Before them stood the great walls of Lal Kila, red sandstone ramparts towering against the sky, worn by centuries of wind and war. Noah's breathing quickened. His small fingers clutched Emily's sleeve. I was here, he said, his voice thin. Trembling, I taught children under the arches. Emily knelt beside him. Can you show us? Without waiting for permission, Noah ran forward, weaving through groups of tourists, past soldiers standing guard. He led them to a shaded courtyard, where a large tree spread its branches like a sheltering hand. Beneath it, worn stone benches circled an empty space. Noah stood in the center, eyes closed, arms slightly raised. I used to sit here, he whispered. The children, they sat around me. I taught them stories, poems about the river. The son, Rajiv, looked at Emily, his expression shifting from polite skepticism to something closer to awe. There is a legend, he said quietly. Long ago, a teacher named Arjun taught poor children in secret under the old banyan trees near the fort. But he died young. He drowned during a monsoon flood while trying to save a student swept away by the river. Emily felt the blood drain from her face. Noah opened his eyes and looked up at the branches above. Where are they now, he asked. Emily's voice shook. They are gone. Noah, it has been a long time. The boy nodded solemnly, as if he already knew. But their journey was not yet over. As they walked back through the winding streets of Old Delhi, Noah tugged at Emily's hand, pulling her toward a narrow alley lined with faded doorways. "I need to find her," he said. Who, Emily asked, though in her heart, she already knew. "Asha," Noah said simply. "I met my wife." Emily's throat closed. Somewhere in this sprawling, ancient city, amidst millions of souls and layers of forgotten stories, a promise made under the stars still lingered. They would have to search for her. Not because logic demanded it, but because love, even stretched across lifetimes, sin, still called. And in answering that call, perhaps both Noah and Emily would find something even greater than memories. They would find healing. The search had just begun. Days melted into each other as Emily and Noah wandered through the endless labyrinth of Delhi. Every morning, Noah would awaken with a new memory. A scent, a song, a street name whispered in dreams. Emily followed each fragile clue with unwavering patience, letting intuition guide them more than logic. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and bathed the narrow streets in golden haze, Noah tugged at Emily's sleeve and pointed to a weathered building tucked between two spice shops. There, he said with quiet certainty, she was there. The building was old, its walls cracked and faded, but a sign still hung above the entrance. Annand Orphanage established 1922. Emily's heart pounded. She did not know what she was hoping to find. She only knew they had to step inside. The air within smelled of dust and old paper. Photographs lined the walls. Sepia-toned faces of children long grown or long gone. An elderly woman, bent but bright-eyed, Tudette, approached them. "Can I help you?" she asked in English. Emily hesitated, then spoke. My son is looking for someone." Her name was Asha. The woman's expression shifted slightly. She motioned for them to follow her to a back room where older records were kept. She pulled out a worn ledger and leafed through the fragile pages. "Asha," she said, tapping a name with a trembling finger. "She was here, a teacher and caretaker, came to us as a widow, devoted her life to the children." Emily's breath caught. "A widow," she whispered. The woman nodded. She never remarried, said she had lost her husband young, always wore white, always prayed by the river. Noah pressed closer, his small hand gripping Emily's tightly. "She waited," he said in a small voice. Tears blurred Emily's vision. She did," she said. They learned that Asha had passed away peacefully decades ago, her ashes scattered along the Yamuna River according to her final wish. Later that evening, Emily and Noah stood by the riverbank. The water flowed slow and dark, whispering secrets only the soul could hear. Noah knelt by the water's edge, scooping a handful of river water and letting it trickle through his fingers. He closed his eyes. "I feel her," he said simply. Emily sat beside him in the fading light. "She found you," she whispered in her own way. The air grew still. And for a brief shimmering moment, Emily felt something else too. A presence, warm and gentle, like a hand brushing her hair, like a voice singing on the edge of hearing. Noah opened his eyes and smiled, a deep knowing smile that no ordinary child could ever wear. He had found peace, and so had she. They stayed by the river until the stars blinked awake above them. No words were needed. Some journeys did not end with grand revelations or dramatic reunions. Some ended quietly, with a whispered promise fulfilled across the ages. Emily and Noah returned to Whitmore weeks later. Life resumed its slow, simple rhythm. But something had changed. Noah still spoke sometimes of Arjun and Asha, but less often, as if the memories were finally settling into a gentle dream rather than a restless storm. Emily no longer feared the mystery. She embraced it, knowing now that love was never lost, only waiting to be found again, across oceans, across lifetimes, across the fragile threads of human time. And every now and then, when the wind whispered through the trees or the river sang softly at twilight, she would look at Noah and see Just for a moment, the infinite soul shining through his innocent smile. A reminder that some bonds were too deep, too ancient, to ever be broken. Not by distance, not by death, not even by time itself. Some stories do not end with clear answers. Some journeys do not circle back neatly to their beginnings. Instead, they drift onward, like rivers, like stars, like the silent footprints of souls crossing between lifetimes. Noah's story was never meant to be a mystery solved. It was a reminder that love does not fade with time, that promises whispered beneath ancient skies still find their way across oceans and centuries, that even the smallest voice, if born from truth, can echo louder than history itself. Somewhere, beyond the walls of reason and the maps of memory, there are bonds too strong to break, and hearts too stubborn to forget. And when we dare to listen, when we dare to believe, we may find that the past is never truly gone. It is simply waiting. Quietly, this for us to remember.